I didn't plan to share this story. For a long time, I kept everything inside. The pain, the fear, the silent tears. Nobody saw. I smiled in front of people, but deep down, I was tired. Tired of praying and seeing nothing change. Tired of hoping and getting disappointed. Tired of pretending I was strong. There was a season in my life where everything started falling apart at once. I lost opportunities I prayed for. People I trusted walked away. Some ignored my messages. Others talked about me behind my back. And the worst part was this. I kept asking God, why is this happening to me? Every night, I would lie awake, thinking about my future. I was scared. Scared that maybe my life would never change. Scared that maybe God had forgotten me. One day, I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized who I was becoming. The joy was gone. The confidence was gone. Even my prayers became weak. Sometimes I would start praying and suddenly stop because I felt like heaven was silent. Have you ever reached that point in life where you love God, but you're exhausted, where you still believe, but you're hurting? That was me. And nobody around me truly understood. People only saw the outside version of me. They didn't see the battles. In my mind, they didn't hear the cries I whispered when I was alone. I remember one specific night. It was late. Everyone was asleep. The room was quiet, but my heart was heavy. I sat on the floor and finally broke down. Not the kind of crying you do for a few seconds. I mean the kind where your soul feels crushed. I told God everything. I said, Lord, I don't understand my life anymore. I'm trying. I'm praying. I'm trusting you. But I feel stuck. And then I said something I will never forget. I whispered, God, if you are still with me, please give me a sign. After that prayer, nothing dramatic happened immediately. No loud voice, no angel, no sudden miracle, but deep inside me, something small shifted. A little peace entered my heart. For the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully. The next morning, I woke up differently. My problems were still there. The bills were still waiting. The stress was still real, but somehow I felt strength returning. That day, I opened my Bible randomly, and my eyes landed on a verse that said, God is close to the brokenhearted. I froze, because that was exactly how I felt. Brokenhearted. At that moment, I realized something powerful. God was not ignoring me. He was with me in the pain. Sometimes we think God only works through big miracles, but often He starts healing us quietly, little by little, day by day. After that, I began changing small things in my life. I started praying honestly instead of praying perfectly. I stopped pretending to be okay when I wasn't okay. I started spending more time with God, even if it was only a few minutes. And slowly, my mindset began changing. I had spent years focusing on what I lost, instead of what God was still protecting. Yes, some doors closed, but maybe those doors were not meant for me. Yes, some people left, but maybe God removed them before they hurt me even more. Sometimes rejection is protection. I didn't understand that before. Months passed. Life still wasn't perfect. I noticed something incredible. I was becoming stronger. The things that used to destroy me emotionally no longer had the same power over me. Started smiling again. I started dreaming again. I started believing that my story was not over then. Something unexpected happened. An opportunity came into my life from a place I never expected. At first, I almost ignored it because I was so used to disappointment. But this time, things were different. Doors began opening slowly, not overnight, not instantly, but steadily. And one evening, while sitting alone, I suddenly realized something. Everything I cried about before had prepared me for where I was going. The pain taught me patience. The waiting taught me faith. The heartbreak taught me discernment. Know some people watching this feel like giving up. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you feel forgotten. Maybe you're secretly fighting battles nobody knows about. But listen to me carefully. Your current situation is not your final chapter. Just because things are hard now does not mean God has abandoned you. Sometimes heaven is working behind the scenes while you think nothing is happening. I used to think delays meant denial, but now I understand that God's timing protects us. There are blessings you are not ready for yet. There are places God is preparing you for. And one day you will look back and understand why certain things had to happen the way they did. I remember another difficult moment later in my journey. Things had improved, but suddenly new challenges appeared again. And I asked God, why another battle? That's when I learned an important truth. Growth often comes with resistance. The enemy attacks what has purpose. Storms don't mean you are failing. Sometimes storms mean you are moving forward. I began praying differently. After that, instead of saying, God, remove every problem, I started saying, God, give me strength to overcome. And that prayer changed me. Because real faith is not only praising God when life is easy. Real faith says, even in pain, I will trust you. There were days I wanted to quit everything. Days I felt emotionally empty. But somehow, God kept carrying me. Not because I was perfect. Not because I was strong, but because His grace is real. I want to tell you something deeply personal. There was a time I compared my life to everyone else. I saw people succeeding, getting married, buying things, achieving dreams. Meanwhile, I felt left behind. Social media made it worse. I smiled online while silently struggling offline, but comparison nearly destroyed my peace. One day, I heard someone say, stop measuring your journey using someone else's timeline. I heard someone say, stop measuring your journey using someone else's timeline. That hit me hard, because God writes different stories for different people. Some people bloom early, others bloom later. But late does not mean never. Your season is coming too. After I understood that, I stopped rushing my life. I stopped begging people to stay. I stopped forcing closed doors to open, and peace entered my heart again. One of the biggest lessons I learned is this: God can rebuild a life that feels completely broken. I know this because He rebuilt mine, not instantly, but beautifully. Sometimes healing is slow. Sometimes progress feels invisible. But every prayer, every tear, every moment of faith matters. There are people watching this right now who feel hopeless. You may feel like nobody cares, but God sees every silent battle. He sees the tears you hide from people. He sees the nights you cry yourself to sleep. He sees the anxiety you cannot explain, and He has not left you. Please hear this clearly. Do not give up in the middle of your story. Some of the greatest testimonies are born from the darkest seasons. If I had quit during my hardest moments, I would never have seen what God had prepared for me later. And maybe that's why you clicked on this video today. Not by accident. Maybe you needed this reminder. Maybe God wanted you to hear that your life still has purpose. Maybe you've been asking for a sign. Maybe this is part of your sign. Keep praying, keep trusting, keep moving forward, even when progress feels slow. One day, the pain will make sense. One day, the tears will turn into testimony. One day, the same person who almost gave up will inspire others to keep going. I never imagined my story would reach people. I never imagined my pain would become part of someone else's healing. But God has a way of turning broken pieces into something meaningful. And if He did it for me, He can do it for you too. No matter how impossible your situation looks right now, no matter how long you've been waiting, no matter how many mistakes you made, grace still exists. Hope still exists. And your story is not over. So before you leave this video, I want you to do one thing. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that you survived every hard moment before this one. You are still here, and that means God is not finished with you yet. Your breakthrough may be closer than you think. Your healing may already be starting quietly, and one day you will look back at this season and say, God carried me through it all. Season in my life where I stopped recognizing myself. I still woke up every morning. I still talked to people. I still smiled sometimes. But inside, I felt empty. It's strange how someone can look fine on the outside while silently falling apart on the inside. That was my reality. I carried pain I never spoke about. I carried disappointment I tried to hide. And every day, I kept asking myself one question. How did my life become like this? I remember sitting alone one afternoon, staring at the ceiling, wondering if things would ever change. I had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to succeed. I wanted peace. I wanted to make my family proud. I wanted to feel close to God again. But instead, I felt stuck. Every direction I turned seemed blocked. Some prayers felt unanswered. Some opportunities disappeared suddenly. And some people I trusted changed completely. The hardest pain is not always losing strangers. Sometimes the deepest pain comes from people you truly loved, people you defended, people you prayed for, people you believed would stay forever. I learned that the hard way there were moments I replayed, conversations in my head over and over again. Wondering what I did wrong, wondering why people changed, wondering why loyalty feels rare these days. And little by little, I started becoming emotionally tired. Not physically tired, soul tired. The kind of tiredness sleep cannot fix. I still prayed during those days, but my prayers sounded different. Instead of long, powerful prayers, sometimes all I could say was, God, help me. That was it. Just 2 words. Because pain has a way of removing unnecessary words. And honestly, there were days I felt guilty for struggling. I thought faith meant always being strong. I thought trusting God meant never feeling discouraged. But I was wrong. Even strong people cry. Even faithful people get tired. Even believers have moments where they feel weak. One night, after another disappointing situation, I walked outside, alone. The streets were quiet. The sky was dark, and everything around me felt still. I looked up and whispered, Lord, are you listening? I didn't hear an answer immediately, but something inside me kept pushing me not to give up. Looking back now, I believe God was holding me together, even when I couldn't feel it. Because there were moments I almost quit completely. Moments I wanted to stop trying. I saw other people moving forward while I felt left behind. People my age were achieving things I prayed for years ago. Some were getting opportunities easily, others seemed happy and successful. Meanwhile, I felt forgotten. Comparison became dangerous for me. Every time I opened social media, I felt worse. I started questioning my worth, questioning my future, questioning whether my life would ever improve. And the enemy loves those moments, because when your mind becomes weak, fear becomes louder. I began overthinking everything. What if nothing changes? What if I fail? What if my future stays like this forever? Thoughts drained me mentally. But one day, something happened that shifted my perspective. I met an older man, unexpectedly. He looked ordinary. Nothing flashy about him. But during our conversation, he said something I will never forget. He looked at me and said, "Sometimes God isolates people before elevating them." That sentence stayed in my mind for days, because isolation was exactly what I felt. I felt separated, disconnected, misunderstood. But maybe it wasn't punishment. Maybe God was preparing me. That thought changed something inside me. For the first time in a long while, I stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And I started asking, "What is God teaching me through this?" That question changed everything. I began noticing lessons hidden inside the pain. I learned patience during waiting seasons. I learned discernment through betrayal. I learned dependence on God when nobody else understood me. And slowly, my relationship with God became more real. Before, I only prayed when I needed something. But during that difficult season, prayer became survival. There were nights I talked to God honestly. No pretending, no religious performance. Just honesty. I told him when I felt angry. I told him when I felt confused. I told him when I felt weak. And strangely enough, those were the moments I felt closest to him. Not during perfection, but during honesty. I think many people are secretly exhausted because they're trying too hard to look strong. But healing begins when you stop pretending. I had to learn that. One morning, after barely sleeping, I opened my Bible again. And this verse stood out to me. "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." I read it again and again, because at that time, my life felt like a long night. But that verse reminded me that pain is temporary. Seasons change, storms pass, nothing lasts forever, not even suffering. That became my hope. And slowly, I started rebuilding myself. Not all at once, step by step. I started protecting my peace more carefully. I stopped chasing people who clearly didn't value me. Stopped forcing friendships. Stopped forcing conversations. Stopped forcing doors God already closed. That was difficult at first, because letting go hurts, especially when you truly cared. But sometimes holding on hurts even more. There are relationships God removes because they can no longer go where He's taking you. At first, I didn't understand that. Now, I do. Another thing I learned during that season was the importance of silence. Not every battle needs explanation. Not every attack deserves your energy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay quiet and let God fight for you. People misunderstood me during that time. Some assumed I had changed, others thought I became distant. But the truth was simple, was healing, and healing often requires distance. You cannot heal in environments that constantly break you. I also realized how important your environment is. Negative voices can poison your faith. Speak fear constantly. Others speak doubt constantly. If you listen to negativity long enough, eventually, you start believing it. That's why I became more careful about what I allowed into my mind. I started listening to worship more often. I spent more quiet time with God. I avoided conversations that drained my spirit. And little by little, peace started returning. Not perfect peace, but real peace. The kind that remains, even when life isn't perfect. Then, another unexpected challenge appeared. Just when I thought things were finally improving, another door closed suddenly. I remember feeling frustrated again. I asked God, why does it feel like every time I move forward, something pushes me backward? But this time, I responded differently. Instead of falling apart completely, I kept praying, even while confused, and eventually, I realized something powerful. Faith is not believing only when everything makes sense. Faith is continuing to trust, even when you don't understand the process. That lesson changed my spiritual life deeply. Because before, I only trusted God when I could see progress. Now, I was learning to trust Him, even in silence. And honestly, silence can be one of the hardest tests. Because when heaven feels quiet, fear tries to speak louder. But God often does His deepest work in hidden seasons. Seeds grow underground before anyone sees the harvest. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe your growth is happening invisibly. Maybe God is building strength in you that people cannot see yet. Please, don't despise hidden seasons. Some of the strongest people are built privately before they shine publicly. I didn't know it then, but God was preparing me for a completely different chapter of life. A chapter 1, never expected. A chapter that would eventually turn my pain into purpose. I didn't realize it at the time, but God was changing me from the inside before changing anything around me. And honestly, that process was painful, because real growth forces you to confront parts of yourself you normally ignore. There were wounds I never healed from, disappointments I buried deeply, memories I pretended no longer affected me. But hidden pain always finds a way to speak. Eventually, sometimes through anger, sometimes through fear, sometimes through exhaustion. I noticed that even when good things happened around me, I still struggled to feel peace. That's when I understood something important. A changed environment does not automatically create a healed heart. Healing is deeper than appearances, and God wanted to heal me completely. Not just my situation, not just my finances, not just my opportunities, my heart. One evening, I sat quietly, thinking about my life. I realized I spent years waiting for external things to make me happy. I thought, if I get this opportunity, I'll finally feel peace. If this person stays in my life, I'll finally feel complete. Become easier, then I'll be happy. But peace that depends on circumstances never lasts long, because life constantly changes. That realization hit me deeply. Began praying differently again, not only for blessings, but for wisdom, for healing, for maturity. And slowly, God started exposing things I needed to release: some habits, some mindsets, some unhealthy attachments. One of the hardest things to release was resentment. People hurt me deeply. Some lied about me. Some abandoned me when I needed them. Most others acted like my pain meant nothing. And for a long time, bitterness quietly grew inside me. Smiled outside while carrying anger inside. But bitterness is dangerous. it slowly steals your peace. I remember praying one night, asking God to help me move forward, and deep inside my spirit, I felt this question. How can I heal while still holding on? That was difficult to accept, because part of me felt people deserved my anger, but another part of me was tired of carrying the weight. Forgiveness does not mean pretending people didn't hurt you. It means refusing to let the pain control your future. So little by little, I started letting go. Not because it was easy, but because I needed peace. And honestly, forgiving people healed me more than I expected. Another major lesson came through loneliness. There were moments I felt isolated. Days where my phone stayed silent. Days where nobody checked on me. Days where I felt invisible at first. Loneliness scared me, but later I discovered something surprising. Loneliness can either destroy you or develop you. Quiet seasons forced me to know myself. I discovered strengths I never knew I had. I discovered passions I ignored before. And most importantly, I discovered how deeply I needed God. Because sometimes God removes distractions so you can finally hear Him clearly. And in that silence, my spiritual life became stronger, not louder. Stronger. There's a difference. Before, I chased emotional moments, but now I was learning consistency. Even on days I felt nothing emotionally, I still prayed, still trusted, still kept going. That's maturity. Real faith continues, walking even when emotions change. Months later, opportunities started appearing again. Small opportunities. At first, nothing dramatic, but this time I noticed something different about myself. I was no longer desperate. Before, I chased validation from people constantly. I wanted everyone to approve of me, to support me, to understand me, but pain taught me something powerful. Not everybody will understand your journey, and that's okay. Some people only support you when your life benefits them. Others disappear the moment your season becomes difficult. I learned to stop depending completely on human validation, because people are inconsistent. But God remains faithful. One day, someone asked me, "How did you survive everything you went through?" I paused before answering, because honestly, there were moments I thought I wouldn't survive emotionally. Where the pressure felt too heavy, but somehow God kept carrying me step by step. Not always by removing the storm, sometimes by strengthening me inside the storm. That's a different kind of miracle, and maybe some of you watching this need to hear that. You keep asking God to remove every battle immediately, but sometimes God develops strength through the battle itself. Gold is purified through fire, and strong faith is often built through difficult seasons. I know suffering is uncomfortable. I know waiting is painful, but some lessons only grow in hard seasons. I became more compassionate because of pain, more prayerful because of weakness, more grateful because I experienced loss. The old version of me wanted quick success, but the new version of me valued peace more than appearances. That changed everything. I stopped rushing life, stopped competing with people, stopped comparing my chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Comparison is exhausting and dangerous, because while you're busy watching everybody else, you stop appreciating what God is doing in your own life. One day, while sitting quietly, I suddenly realized something beautiful. Even during my darkest seasons, God never truly abandoned me. Looking back, I could see His hand everywhere. The opportunities that didn't work out protected me. The delays prepared me. The heartbreak redirected me. At the time, I only saw pain. Now, I see purpose. And maybe one day you will too. Maybe right now, you only see confusion. But later, you may realize God was saving you from things you didn't understand yet. The thought gave me peace. As time passed, I also became more careful about who I allowed close to me. Not everybody deserves access to your heart. Some people carry chaos everywhere they go. Others constantly speak negativity. Some secretly compete with you instead of supporting you. Discernment became important in my life. I learned that protecting your peace is not selfish. It's necessary. And the closer I grew to God, the more sensitive I became to certain environments. Some places drained my spirit completely. Some conversations left me emotionally heavy. So I started choosing peace intentionally. And honestly, my life improved because of it. I won't pretend everything suddenly became perfect. No, there were still hard days, still disappointments, still moments of uncertainty. But now, I had something different. Hope. Real hope. Not fake positivity. Not pretending problems didn't exist. But deep confidence that God was still writing my story. That confidence carried me through difficult moments. And eventually, doors opened that I never expected. People began noticing gifts inside me that I had doubted for years. Opportunities came unexpectedly. Connections happened naturally, and for the first time in a long time, I felt excitement about the future again. But the greatest blessing wasn't success, it was peace. There's nothing more valuable than waking up without constant heaviness in your heart. Nothing more valuable than sleeping peacefully after surviving seasons that almost destroyed you. If you are watching this right now while going through a difficult season, please listen carefully. Do not give up on yourself. Do not let temporary pain convince you that your life has no meaning. Storms end, seasons change, and God specializes in restoring broken things. I know what it feels like to cry silently. I know what it feels like to feel forgotten. I know what it feels like to wonder if life will ever improve. But I also know this: God can bring light into extremely dark places. And sometimes your greatest testimony begins during your greatest struggle. That's why I'm sharing this story. Because somebody out there feels tired. Somebody feels discouraged. Somebody feels emotionally drained. Somebody is secretly close to giving up. But your story is not finished yet. The chapter you are in now is not the end. There is still purpose ahead of you, still healing ahead of you, still joy ahead of you. And one day you will look back at this painful season and realize God was carrying you the entire time. So, keep praying, keep believing, keep moving forward, even when progress feels slow. One small step at a time. And before this video ends, I want you to remember one thing: the same God who kept you alive through every painful moment before this one will also carry you through what comes next. You are stronger than you think. You are more loved than you realize. And your testimony is still being written. Amen.